come down, and the way we're going to pay you is you're going to get some free products and gifts, and there's a catalogue, and just tell us what you think of what you want from the catalogue, but that's just by the by. And they watch the program and they ask them lots of questions about the characters, and there happens to be some ads shown in the middle, and then at the end people go and get to choose the products that they want to get from the catalogue. And of course the whole thing is about looking at the impact of the advertising, and the TV show is a complete red herring. It's just to get people to focus on something so that they're not thinking about the adverts. But you get it. So there's lots of ways that you can do this, that if you ask someone to focus on it, then it ceases to be the issue. So you come out and find out that the creative there was the most prevalent one, and so that was just the strategy. By the time you added the creative, you get this persuasion score, which is way above the fair share index for that product category, and end result is it drives a shed load more sales. So this is partly in where the Don Draper thing came from is, and I'll be said, this is unashamedly was this presentation, although I've modified it, was initially created to justify copy testing to an industry that hadn't done it before. But I think in the middle of that, if you leave aside that cell because you're not about to buy copy testing, is just you understanding that creative has been undervalued, and also just wanting you to understand the importance of media plans and where stuff sits.
Would you explain copy testing quickly?
Yes, so copy testing is what I was just giving as that example of people turning up to the cinema, which is to say, we go back here, I have, this is strategy testing, I've got 5 possible executions or 5 strategies that I could pursue, and then what you can do with copy testing is get ways of getting the consumers to give you feedback of which one is likely to work. And what has been proven over 40 years is there are ways that you can get some feedback. It doesn't just have to be on your gut. Now obviously it's expensive, or it costs to go and do it, and while ad creative budgets were small for digital, you couldn't afford to do copy testing. But only now that digital budgets are getting much bigger because you got a media spend for a homepage takeover that may be $1 million, well, if I'm going to spend $1 million on my media, then I can probably spend some decent money now on my creative, because that makes sense. So there is the ability that you can have your gut, you can throw all these ideas out there, and you can have some feedback of actually these ones are going to work, and there are some, and about how to determine what works and evaluation. I'm happy in a couple of months to get the lady who runs the copy testing business, who's moving over here, who works for ARS, to come and talk to you about how they evaluate that in more detail. That isn't my area of expertise. So that's the kind of the main drive. So one of the things is just to say fewer people clicking on ads. Number of people clicking is shrinking. Clickers aren't necessarily representative. Creative is more important. And what we do need is to bring back these old methodologies that were developed very well for TV and radio and apply them to online. Which, I've seen there's an old TV researcher who was sitting at the back of one of the seminars we were presenting last year at the IAB, smiling as all these young digital people are trying to learn about brand awareness and stuff. And he goes, this is exactly what we did 30 years ago, and the digerati thought we'd moved on to a new world. And the reality is we're still trying to communicate with people. We're still trying to get them from being unaware to buy, and there's a path to go through, which is about engagement and informing and emotional attachment. And we need to understand that. And there's some science that goes behind that. So there were a whole load of quotes that came out about people expressing the importance of creativity and saying that historically this had been underrepresented in the world of digital creativity. But I think you're right now. The other thing is that the rise of video, the absence of video as being in the digital world, was a real limit on some of the creativity and emotional engagement that you could get. And now that we're seeing really big increase in video online, again, that helps the tools that you have to play with. So from that point of view, it is your time if you want to play in digital, because you will be more evaluated or valued now than you have been historically. So, on any questions on that? If not, there's just a couple of other points on data and what is changing that I might go and mention.
What questions have we got? Cooper?
For example, Mac, when they were launching the iPad, they sent out an iPad to loads of different websites to get them to make videos with it. They did it, put it on Bullet Blend and stuff like that. Is there any way of quantifying the effectiveness of campaigns like that, where they're essentially putting their product into a viral video?
I think that's where, and what I haven't talked about is all social media measurement, and there's lots of tools now that analyze when brands and products are mentioned.
Oh, we name a few. They don't know it yet, but you're about to get a very big brief from the chief exec of DDB, where you're going to be asked to do this. You're going to be presenting to the chief exec of DDB. Do you want to explain some of the tools?
Yeah, so Radian 6 is, there's a number of tools that basically look at sentiment analysis. So you can go in, you put your term, you can rank it against your competitors, you then get to see how is this product getting mentioned, and then they try to develop some algorithms to say, is this brand being mentioned in a favourable or in an unfavourable light? Now obviously this is algorithm based, so irony kind of hard, it's hard enough for Americans at the best of times, let alone once they've coded it into an algorithm to analyse. But there are now a whole set of tools that people are using to track what is the social media impact of what's being done. And I think, I saw the whole question about owned media versus earned media versus bought media, if everyone's clear of the three distinctions, that the whole bought media space is understood to only be about 25% of the influence on a final purchase. So you have this enormous industry that's been set up around optimizing bought media, when the whole word of mouth and social media is driving that. You've still got the whole point of sale that kind of drives that. So you've got price promotion as roughly a quarter, what you're doing at point of sale, which is why when you look at ad budgets, the huge growth that's gone into promotion at point of sale. And the thing that shifted it, the money flowed there the moment that they stopped counting shipments from the warehouse, which they could only do on aggregate, and they introduced those little scanners that started beeping with the barcodes. And the moment they did that, they could track the sale of things by the minute. And when you do that, then you can work out, if I put a promotion up and I take it down, how's it effectively driving sales? So once you had measurability in the retail sales environment, suddenly this huge amount of money flows into retail promotion because you can prove that it works. And when it wasn't there, then all you knew is so many crates of beer left the warehouse and so many at the end of the month got sold, and it was very hard to know exactly what was making the impact. So the measurability thing is going to get ever bigger. So the stuff that I've spent the last 3 years working on is getting the mobile operators, instead of doing media research for mobile usage on a panel, is to get census level data. So now all the UK operators give us all your traffic every time you go on the internet on your phone. We see that. There's a huge amount of work to anonymize it, but we can then analyze that at a total sort of census level. And ultimately, with your consent, and this is the first time I think it's going to happen in a major medium, is that the operators are going to start contacting you to say, we'd like to target you, and we'd like to use the information we know about you to help other people target you. And if you don't want that to happen, nothing, don't need to do anything. If you want it to happen, and we'll give you some incentive to let it happen, then we'll be fully transparent about this is what's going on. And that's sort of the legislation that's coming, that at the moment when that junk mail comes through the door and you don't know why it came, because there is a huge industry set up to trade in your personal data. And also from the middle of this year, anytime an ad is served to you on the internet that you have been profiled, it should be displaying an icon that says you have been targeted. And these are big changes, and I think advertisers, and I was at the ISBA, so the Trade Association for British Advertisers, yesterday, their annual conference, and they had a section on behavioural, on this issue. But I think people don't know the implication that's going to come through is it's so hard to know why that catalogue landed on your desk and to track it. But once people start seeing all these ads that are telling them I am being tracked and targeted, then I think it's going to raise more and more questions. And the new legislation coming through says you as an individual have the right to know what companies hold on you, the right to see it, to amend it, to delete it, or remove it.
Do you think that because everything's going touchscreen and stuff like this, they'll start to use, we'll be able to know if someone else's fingers on there, so different users or things like that?
There's a difficulty about measuring that within the on the screen itself. It's more, as more and more stuff moves to mobile, then mobiles do tend to be more owned by an individual. So they are looking. The thing that they're looking more, which I must confess we have tested, is the Microsoft Kinetic controller. We have technology, so we put meters onto people who have opted in to join our panel. They download some software onto the machine, but then we ask them, who are the people in your household? And then we have to try and work out who are the people using that machine at a particular point in time. Now we can go and see that you may have logged into your Facebook account, so that's likely to be you, but you might just be browsing on the BBC and there's nothing to indicate who you are. So what we do is we analyse the way you type and the way you move your mouth, and we can create